throughout the years, that is your strength, I feel like, no matter what happens, you relatively control your energy and baseball, success and failure happens. Of course, lots of failure happen in the sports, but instead of being reacted to it, you focus on what you can control, preparation,
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what happened with my surgery too, is like, that's what it taught me. It was like, hey, you can't, whatever happened. It's about how you're going to attack the next day. How are you going to attack the next day? How are you going to get better? What are you going to learn from this? And that's kind of how I live my life now too, especially with, baseball.
Welcome back to K2 DOJO Cafe. Today we are featuring Tarik Skubal, professional baseball pitcher for Detroit Tigers organization. And I met Tarik back in 2016 when he had a Tommy John surgery. And since then we became friends. Then we've been treating him, working with him. And this time, 2022, 2023, I've been helping him for that recovery from the left wrist flexor repair. And I jokingly call him El Rey Hombre because he's from Kingman, Arizona. So in Spanish, El Rey Hombre meaning King Man. So here's Tarik. Welcome
thanks
to this.
For having me. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we only get to spend time when something's wrong with me, but it's good. I'm always in good hands, and the best hands really. So.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So now, would you mind briefly introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, so my name's Tarik Skubal, left-handed pitcher for the Tigers. Born in Hayward, California, lived there until 6th grade. Moved out to Arizona, Kingman, like you mentioned, Kingman, Arizona. Graduated in 2014, went up to Seattle University. That's where I played college baseball for 4 years. Drafted by the Tigers in 2018, and then made my major league debut in 2020. And now we're here.
That's awesome. What about throughout your baseball journey? Have you had anybody for you, like role model or mentor?
Yeah, so in the baseball world, my pitching coach in college was very influential on me. Not just because he was my coach, but
what's his name?
Elliot Kribbe. He's now the pitching coach at Pacific University, or University of Pacific. It's in Stockton, California. But he had a great influence on me because he genuinely cared about my success, more than his,
Gotcha.
Which is very important at that age. And he taught me a lot of things about baseball, life, how to take care of yourself. But another role model would have to be just my older brother Tyler. I think growing up with him, he always kind of set the tone of how to work hard.
That's awesome.
And he kind of laid the foundation for me to be able to, kind of succeed, because I feel like he didn't have someone like that at least I don't think he did, as influential on him as he was on me. So yeah, he taught me a lot, about everything life. I was able to watch him fail, early, like, when he's older, I could watch him fail and see how he responded to it, and it kind of just, it helped me out a ton, and he still is that role model for me. He's
That's
kind of
amazing.
my rock when anything goes wrong, baseball, life. I always kind of text him or call him, and he's always
awesome.
He's awesome.
He's there for you.
Yeah, always there for
I
me.
see. Awesome. Then you're following his kind of, as a person, like his footstep in a way, learning from him then.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he now has a daughter, and he has another one on the way, and he's showing me how to be, a good dad, so that way when I start my family.
Yeah.
But that would just be one. My entire family is very influential on me. I have a great family. Younger brother, he actually lives with me. I love being around him, just as much as I can, because he's not only is he funny, but it's I'm kind of trying to show him how to grow in life too. So that's kind of that support system that we have.
That's awesome. Yeah, almost like your big brother was passing on something good.
Yeah.
Now your turn to passing something good to your younger brother.
Exactly. And I have
That's
a great
amazing.
family. Been
Beautiful.
blessed with a great family.
Beautiful.
So
Awesome. Then Tarik, we met together 2016 when you had a Tommy John surgery. Then later we're going to discuss about your rehab experience. But shortly after, I believe 2018, you got drafted, then end up going to Tigers.
Yeah.
Then pretty young age, and you became very successful. You didn't spend too much time on minor league system. That went up to big league. So if you can take us through that professional journey from drafted and going to big league, and that would be great.
Yeah. So drafted in 2018. Played that little half season or whatever it is when you're drafted. Like it's like a month and a half of baseball or whatever. Played that month and a half. Spent the off season. Really wanted to dedicate my time to my body, and kind of get right, because I've never had 5 months off of no school. There's no school going on. It's just like, hey, get yourself in great shape. So I tried to do that to the best of my ability. And then in 2019, the Tigers, the organization, they put me in a great position to have success. They surrounded me with great coaches, great teammates and stuff, and I was able to just kind of go out there and play. And then my wife as well, she's a big part of that too. She's like, yeah, just go worry about baseball. She kind of took care of everything else, as far as the real life stuff. So I focused on baseball, and then, I really wanted to pitch in the big leagues. And 2019 was I had a great minor league season. Started in high A, went to Double A, finished in Double A, and my teammates in that, in Double A and in high A were awesome, and we kind of had that competitiveness within each other. Not just like, we always kind of pushed each other in different aspects. Or you watch one guy go 7 scoreless, it's like, all right, it's my turn to do that.
Oh,
so
I like that.
It was really competitive, and it was fun, and I really enjoyed it. And then obviously COVID was that next year. I was supposed to start in AAA, but we had to do kind of that alt site deal, which isn't great, but whatever. It's the best they could do. And then 2020, I probably was there at the alt site for 3 weeks or so. And I had actually just gotten COVID, so I was kind of like, they were building me back up from that.
Gotcha.
And that was in 3-4 weeks, and then got called up to the big leagues, and it was weird because there's no fans, because no one could be there.
Right.
My family couldn't even be at the game.
That's right.
Yeah, family couldn't be there. They were actually at like a little restaurant right across the street. So it's funny, or in downtown Chicago, I think, because the White Sox Stadium's a little bit outside of Chicago. So they were there, but I got to see them, the night of, and hang out with them that night, which was really, really cool and really special.
Awesome. What about going back to shortly after getting drafted, now reported? Then you meet best of best among your generation,
Yeah.
How did you feel? You feel like, yeah, I get this, or wow, this is so competitive?
Yeah, so actually it's a funny story. My first day when I signed, there was a guy on the backfield. I have no idea who anybody is, because I don't know anyone within the organization, right? He's throwing like 95 to 97. His stuff looks great, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, do I belong here? And the organization did a great job of reassuring, like, hey, we know who you are, we know your talent. Just focus on yourself and development and stuff like that. But there was that moment where I was like, hey, I don't think I'm good enough, and it's kind of eye-opening when you get there and you're like, okay, the only thing I know how to do is, all right, I'm gonna go work and try to be the best player I can be. So it's actually funny. But
I see. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Then shortly after, you start building up your confidence.
Yeah, so I think that the success that I had in 2018 after I was drafted, because my college season was kind of hit or miss. It was my first year back from Tommy John, so I was kind of relearning how to do things, But once I was drafted, the success obviously bred a little bit of confidence, but I tend to rely on my preparation to kind of build that confidence for me and breed that confidence. So that's day-to-day stuff, making sure I feel good, whether that be in the weight room, training room, make sure I'm sleeping right, eating right, and that's kind of what builds my confidence when I'm out there on the mound, because that's all I can really control is the stuff I do in between. And then when I go out and pitch, I'm just going out and competing, and whatever happens. It's not, I'm gonna try my best and do my best, but if at the end of the day some things don't roll your way, and that's just life. And baseball actually, it reminds you consistently about that.
Right, true.
Sometimes a lot of things happen that you don't want to happen, but they happen, and it's all for good reasons. So
yeah, throughout the years, that is your strength. I feel like, no matter what happens, you relatively control your energy, and and baseball, success and failure happens, of course. Lots of failure happen in the sports, but instead of being reacted to it, you focus on what you can control, preparation, you know.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what happened with my surgery too, is like that's what it taught me, was like, hey, you can't, whatever happened. It's about how you're going to attack the next day. How are you going to attack the next day? How are you going to get better? What are you going to learn from this? And that's kind of how I live my life now too, especially with, baseball.
Almost like one inning at a time, or one hitter, one pitch at a time.
It's simple to say, like, you want to focus in one pitch at a time, and it's like, oh, that's so simple, I can do that. But when you're out there, it's not that easy. It really isn't. There could be a fan here, or you could be thinking about this there, just random. Your brain is trying to go everywhere, and you're like, all right, I need to focus pitch by pitch. And that's something that, from my first year in the big leagues to now, I feel like I've done a very good job of being able to really focus in pitch by pitch. Because your first year, you're like, hey, do I even belong here? Am I good enough to pitch at this level?
Kind of self-doubt.
What do my teammates think of me? Different things like that. That when you're out there pitching, you can start thinking about those things, and it's completely, you're in the wrong mental space. It's hard enough to go out there and be good. You're kind of putting yourself behind the eight ball.
That is something you cannot control.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. So that's kind of what I do, is like control what you can control, and I mean that on a very simple level. Like, your effort pitch by pitch. That's my mentality, honestly, when I play. So.
I see. So how was your first big league appearance? You said there was no fan because of COVID year. Yeah. How was it like?
I mean, it was fun. It didn't go well, obviously. Like the numbers, the stat lines are out there if you want to look them up. It didn't go well, but it was fun. I enjoyed it.
You had fun.
I had fun, yeah. And it was weird because there's no fans. Looking back at that season, it was just so weird, like so different than everything that you're used to. Even if you play in a stadium that doesn't have a ton of fans, having 0 fans and having the crowd noise plugged in, it was just weird. And I'm glad that is no longer a thing, because I like the fans. I like the energy that fans bring. Yes.
That makes the game.
But it was hard to kind of bring your own energy, and for it to be my first experience in the big leagues, it was just weird, and I was like, this isn't what I'm used to, and I don't know if 40,000 fans or however many fit in that stadium, how that would have went or what my experience would have been like, but I know my experience, and I was like, hey, this is kind of weird. This isn't what I'm used to. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I was very thankful for the opportunity, and it was fun. It was
awesome.
Good.
So since 2020, and you've been pitching for the Detroit Tigers, how much did you grow throughout those 2 years, period? As a pitcher,
I feel like I've grown a ton. How to eliminate all those negative thoughts that can come into your brain, because physically, I think there's a lot of people that are gifted that are big league players physically, but mentally, I think that's where you can that's where the jump is for me from the minor leagues to the big leagues. Like, people are very good, and the big leagues are a lot better. The talent level is real, and it's really good. There's really good players. But mentally, if you can just kind of eliminate all those negative thoughts and just focus on your craft and try to live pitch by pitch, I think that's, and navigate the travel, and it's different. You're flying here, you're playing in this city here tonight, and then you're there for 3 days, and then you travel. So when you get accustomed to kind of traveling and, taking care of your body, because you have a ton of more resources too, as well as like from the minor leagues to the big leagues. So you have the resources, taking advantage of those, making sure you keep your body in shape, eat well, try and sleep as much as you can, just because the schedule is, there's night game, day game, so that day game always comes around quick. But also just focusing on your craft and developing yourself, I think that's huge. I think my rookie season, I was so worried about what everyone else was doing, I didn't even worry about what I was doing. What everyone else thought of me, I didn't even have the confidence in myself to just go out there and play, so I think that's where I kind of have grown the most.
Gotcha. That's amazing. So you learned that discipline by yourself, or you learned from somebody coached you, or?
Yeah, we had some veterans on the team. Matthew Boyd was one of the big guys for me that I kind of leaned on when I was struggling, and he's always been very encouraging, like, hey, your stuff's very good, just go out there and pitch. And if you can just trust and be confident in your stuff, and like what he said, just go out there and pitch and go out there and compete, you're going to be at your best. You know, I feel like a lot of times you can kind of see it too, like when guys are kind of wandering or they're not as confident, like even game to game opponents, like you can see, you know, when I'm on the mound, I can see in the box, like when a guy's struggling versus when a guy's, you know, really hot at the plate, they just have a different moxie about him, and you're like, okay, you know, this guy, if he's struggling, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go right after this guy because I know that he doesn't have, like, physically he's there, but mentally he's not locked in.
I see.
Almost
so,
at
the battlefield, you can smell the weakness kind of thing.
Exactly, exactly, and you can kind of feel that. So if you can just go out there and be confident in yourself and just play baseball. You've been doing it your whole life. You know, it's simple to say, and go out there and compete. I think that's, you know, when everyone's going to be their best.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So initially I met you back in 2016 because you had a Tommy John surgery and came to us, and I was in charge of your rehabilitation. So many of the viewers maybe heard of or actually experienced that Tommy John UCL, you know, reconstruction surgery, maybe going through the rehabilitation process now. If you can take us through that, your rehabilitation experience from that UCL, you know, repair.
Yeah, so when I had surgery in 2016,